becoming the world best para athlete opened. So that really saved my sport life and maybe life in general, because I suddenly saw that I did have a opportunity to be something great with my disability.
Welcome back to Hidden Champions. This is Danny Ervich, cross-country skier from the United States, and I'm excited to bring you this podcast alongside FIS. We are talking to the best athletes you've never heard of yet. And today I'm very excited about this guest because not only is she one of the most dominant paracross country skiers in the world, she's someone I get to see on the start line all the time. She is a 12-time world champion, 3-time Paralympic medalist, and 5-time overall World Cup winner. I mean, those accolades really speak for themselves, but from Norway, everyone please welcome Vilde Nilsen. Vilde, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So we're only a couple weeks out from the Paralympic Games. How is your prep going so far?
It's going good. I'm in Norway currently at Lillehammer, where I live. So it's a lot of skiing training, and we're heading to pre-camp tomorrow, or it will be the 19th of February. Be there for a week, and heading to Milano or Val di Fiemme the 2nd of March.
Beautiful. Have you been watching the Olympic cross-country events?
Yeah, I have, and I can say that my butterflies are flying crazy inside of my belly when I'm watching the races, especially when I see that the conditions can be like tricky from day to day. But it's so in Norway right now in Lillehammer, it has been crazy cold. It's been like minus 20 degrees. So
Wow.
And I see it's like almost summer in Italy. So I hope we get some time to like prepare our body when we are in Italy for the war.
I am so glad you brought that up, because I think that's something that people don't realize about the Paralympic Games is there is this 12-day gap in between the Olympics and the Paralympics starting, and that could mean even warmer temps than what we're seeing currently in Val di Fiemme. And for people watching at home have seen the slushy snow, people skiing in t-shirts, some of the guys not skiing in a shirt at all. And that's something that the Paralympians have to consider is, yes, wherever you are right now training, you might be skiing at your competition on very different snow. So what is that like for people who aren't cross-country skiers? Can you describe what it's like to go from hard-packed, cold, firm snow to slush, artificial snow, what we might experience in Val di Fiemme?
For Norwegians, we are very like spoiled with very good snow conditions the whole winter. So whenever we're traveling to Europe or other places in the world where the snow is not so good, we're like, oh, this is not what we've been training on. But I guess like, even though we have like good conditions on snow, we do practice a lot of balance and stuff when we're at the gym. So I think like we have good equipment to race good on the snow as well, with good skis and stuff like that. So I think even though it's it can be tricky conditions, it's the best athlete that wins anyway. But it's for para athletes. Tricky conditions is way worse than for able-bodied athletes. So I cross my fingers that the snow is not totally damaged when we arrive. But I think it will be good with some more sun. Some more D vitamin.
Yeah, more vitamin D. And we got to experience that in Beijing. If you remember that 10-kilometer freestyle race, the very last day of the games, the snow completely broke down. It was all artificial snow to begin with. It was warm, and people were falling on their face because they were getting caught in the slush. And for me, being so new to skiing, I had never skied slushy snow like that. So it was just like a flopping around craziness. And like you said, for para athletes, it can present a lot of challenges because we use the factor system, and those factors are set way before whatever the race conditions will tell. And different factors can perform differently in different conditions. And it can play to maybe some athletes' advantage one day and be a disadvantage the next. So it can be really, really challenging. But I want to learn more about how you got to cross country skiing. Obviously, you're Norwegian. I feel like Norwegians have cross country skiing in their blood. I mean, we're watching that in the Olympics right now, and Norway has won the most Winter Olympic medals of any nation, even though the population is significantly smaller than some of the other nations. So, how did you initially get started in cross country skiing?
I did start cross country skiing when I was old enough to stand on my 2 feet. I was born into a very active family where they'd done a lot of sports like football and cross-country skiing, biathlon, many sports. But on Sundays, my family took us, me and my siblings, out for Sunday skiing trips where we went on skis and had a fire out in the woods, and that's how it started. And then my first cross country race, I was 2 years old, and they made this. I was in the newspaper, but yeah. So I was actually, I didn't have a choice. I was born into a very active family, and decided early that I really wanted to become one of the best cross-country skiers in the world, and that on my time that was Marit Bjørgen. So I skied my whole childhood, but then I got the sickness that is my damage today, or has made my disability, which was a very rare disease, which attacked my left foot from toe to hip, which I got medications for. So I am the sickness is set in pause right now, but I do have the damage that the sickness made. I have very tight skin around my muscles, and the muscles grow, and my leg growed slower in the period when I was sick. So today I have 4 centimeters length difference, height difference, which I compensate with this plate under my binding on my skis. And I also have I have 40% less muscles in my left foot, and I also have very stiff joints, especially in my ankle. So that's when my problems when I'm skiing is less muscles and not the best power when I'm especially skating, and balance, coordination, because my ankle is so stiff. So that's pretty much it. But I continued to ski even though I was very sick, and when I was I skied with able-bodied athletes, and I was starting to drop down on the list when I was racing. So I was slowly maybe seeing my dream was thrown away, that I probably never would be the best cross-country skier in the world. But then I just accidentally watched TV when the opening ceremony for the Paralympic Games in 2014 was in Sochi. And then I was like, "Mom, come and see," and and we talked about that this could be a opportunity for me. So we contacted the Norwegian Ski Federation, and I went on classification, and yeah, I went on my first open summer ski camp with other para athletes in 2015, and that's just I was invited for other camps, and suddenly I was on the national team, and yeah, it was it was a very and then my dream for becoming the world best para athlete opened. So my that really saved my sport life, and maybe life in general, because I suddenly saw that I did have a opportunity to be something great with my disability.
Wow, this is a common thing amongst the athletes we've spoken to so far this season from across the 3 snow sports is oftentimes they only stumble upon parasport because of a happen chance moment. Like yours being, I was watching TV and I saw the
Yeah.
opening ceremony. Some people it's they met someone, you know, who recruited them and said, "Come try this out." Someone else decided after their leg was amputated to just do Google snowboarding without leg. And
Yeah.
it's crazy that, you know, in this would never happen in the non-disabled world. If someone showed athletic promise, was very skilled at something like from an early age, they're often, you know, invited in to train at an elite maybe facility or to be a part of a team to try to put them on this trajectory to do well. And in the para space, I think it really comes down still to a lack of knowledge or awareness across that
Absolutely.
we should never have an athlete who's growing up with a disability or acquires their disability at a young age not know that this is an option for them, because this seems to happen too much, and we're lucky that it happened to you and to so many of these athletes that you had that moment, because now obviously you have this career that you are able to highly excel in. And it is just crazy to think that it's always like this happen chance moment. So I'm glad you had the TV did you right that night.
Yeah. And
Getting to
that's,
watch that.
yeah, and I really think it's so important that the para sports get like shown on especially like social medias and on media on TV and stuff. So like after last year's world championship in Trondheim, where like it was the first time para athletes was under the same uh, championship as able-bodied in cross-country skiing, I it was so many people that like have spoken to me after that and like said that, oh my god, this is something my kids want to try because they have a disability. So I
Mm.
really think like to broadcast our sport is the best way to like get people to see what parasport actually is.
So you get to finally go train with the team while you're at a very young age, and in those couple years you end up qualifying for your first Paralympics, which is in 2018. But you were young, like what, 17 years old at your first Paralympic Games?
Yeah.
How do you handle that experience? Because for anyone who hasn't experienced the Paralympics or the Olympics, it is a different level of competition. There's TV there, there's media opportunities, there is a lot of weight behind it. So, how do you manage that at just 17 years old?
Yeah, it was. I remember it was very new to me because it was all this like media stuff we had to go through and interviews and like just the fact that my skiing race was going to be sent on TV just made like me. Yeah, it made me nervous because I was like, what if I fall? Everybody's going to watch at home, and I was like, yeah, it was so much new stuff to me, but I think I really handled it well, and I was like maybe a little bit cocky when they were sending like from the sprint, when the camera was like filming each athlete, and I was like doing these things with my hands, like something like a move that that really I was maybe a little bit bullied on the Norwegian team for afterward, but it was very fun, and I think I didn't have like the biggest pressure on myself because I was sent there for experience and just to enjoy the whole thing. But I really did great in the sprint and ended up with a silver medal, with which was very like the biggest moment maybe of my Paralympic career because I was so proud of myself and of my disability in my leg. I really felt that that was my proudest moment. But yeah, I remember that it was a lot of things going on social medias, and that we talked with our like with our staff or team that we maybe not try to be so much on our phones and try to just put it away because it was so many messages that were sent and congratulations and stuff like that. So after the silver medal, maybe my focus was like I was dropping a little bit of my focus and maybe did not so well in the other competitions, but when I looked back at it now, it is important to enjoy like the whole Olympic or Paralympic experience with going around in the village and experience things and do a lot of fun things and talking to other athletes, and that's something you can't do like it's only every fourth year. So besides the competitions, it's you have to just take in every like special moments from the games.
Definitely. It is a very all-consuming, unique experience that you don't experience any other time in life. And so it's definitely hard to prioritize sometimes between racing and enjoying those cool things that only happen at the games. So you go from being so young, you win a silver medal at just 17 years old, somewhat new still to the para movement, and over the following 4 years, you start to assert your dominance as one of the top athletes in the women's standing field. What do you think helped you get leaps and bounds further ahead and really become a leading name in it? Was it age, like just pure maturity as an athlete? Or did you change something in your training? What kind of led over those next 4 years to you entering Beijing as a top performer?
I think I did. I was in high school when I were in Pyeongchang, and the next year, the next 2 following years, I was also in high school. So I was in a sport high school where we did a lot of training. I went on the cross country and biathlon team on the school. And trained a lot together with other able-bodied athletes, and really like got to see how I could develop together with them, which I think was very very good experience. But I also got older and my body accepted more training, and I also got some extra like help from the Norwegian Olympic team, which is like spread all over the country. Then I was living in the north of Norway, so I was followed up by the coaches there with especially strength and technique. So I got like a lot of focus on how I could be like the best athlete with my disability, because many coaches are like, oh, I want you to do this because this is what the best skiers in the world are doing. But these coaches was like, yeah, okay, you can't, for example, use your leg so much in the downhill, but can we do something else with your other leg? And like really tried to compensate how my body could like race as fast as possible with my disability. And that was maybe like the biggest changes, that I got to like have coaches listening to me and trying to find out how I could be racing the fastest I could with my disability and solve different tasks in the track. But after high school, I moved to Lillehammer, which is like the capital of cross-country skiers in Norway. And here I got to train a lot with other athletes, and my whole para team is also living here in the area. So we train a lot together, and it's a very like it's a paradise for cross-country skiers with like it's miles of tracks to train in, and it's always prepared good cross-country tracks. So I think I really have like increased my volume of training after I moved, because after school now I have only been a cross-country skier's full-time athlete, not doing any studies or job. So this have been my life, like very like this is what I want to do, and if I'm going to do it, I want to do it 100%. But after the games, we will see.
When you go into Beijing, then having had a lot of really phenomenal performances, do you feel more pressure leading into Beijing? You're a bit older, you've stepped up your training, you've moved to train with a more elite group. Do you feel pressure externally of expectation for you to do well in Beijing?
Yeah, I really felt the pressure, and I also had very good seasons with almost winning every race. Just had the World Championship at Lillehammer 1.5 months or 2 months before the games, where I won 2 gold medals. And then I got the coronavirus right after the World Championships. I think it was maybe too much hugging with the athletes after crossing the line. We was very strict, and I had not seen anybody in that period because of the COVID. But the only time where I slipped was when I was hugging athletes.
The finish line.
Yeah, and that must have been it. No. But I got sick and had to use a lot of time to recover. And I thought that my shape was better when I was going to Beijing. But then again, it was altitude there, and I didn't do so well. At least not what I wanted to do. I wanted to come there and leave with at least 1 gold medal, and I think like I had the first race was the long distance, and after 1 lap, I was like, this is not going to work. My body just didn't feel good. For me, my strength is double pulling, and I remember some of the athletes in my class just double pull with 1 pull in front of me, and they caught in on me, and then I was like, this is not going to work, and I didn't finish the race. So I was already on the first race. I was very disappointed, but managed to win a silver medal in the sprint, which was maybe, like looking back at it, it was very actually very good performance that I actually managed to win the silver, but and also a bronze in the relay, which was like maybe the best day of racing during the games in Beijing. But when I went home, I was very, very low. I really wanted to do more, but then the plans for the next 4 years began, and I can say that I have done a lot of things in the 4 years. So I hope, cross my fingers, that the games in Milano Cortina will be better.
Well, that's so difficult to enter the games coming off an illness, and an illness that was very hard to navigate and understand and control, and also know how your body would respond to it, because everyone responds so differently, I feel like, to COVID-19. Yeah, that's difficult. You know, you worked those 4 years, you thought you did everything right up to that point, to then not have that moment be what you wanted, and that is the harsh reality, I feel like, of sport, of these things, because there's so much weight on these 4 years. I think we're watching it in the Olympics right now a lot, like lots of unexpected twists and turns between injury, illness, or sometimes the pressure of expectation of people.
Yeah.
It's challenging and it's difficult, and it's the reality of sport. So you come home, you know, okay, we're looking 4 years ahead again, Milano Cortina. And in these 4 years, you have asserted yourself as being the top female standing skier across the fields. And I think, you know, as your competitor, we definitely fear you, especially in classic technique. You are, you know, and I think too, it's there's something to be said for being from where you're from. Like, do you feel also an additional weight because you are from Norway, a country that, you know, invented the sport of cross-country skiing? Do you feel like that adds any level of your expectation as well, that you want to perform for your nation, being that Nordic nation?
Yeah, I feel like I do feel a lot of pressures maybe from the media. I'm not thinking so much about like, this is the biggest sport. I think like you can see the Olympics now with like, of course, Klæbo, and on the men's side, it's very good level. But the women's side, it's been like, they did a really, really good relay, and but they have, like, I think they also feel the pressure, but I don't think Norwegians like accept that you're going, or like I don't think they demand that you're going to the games and come home with a lot of medals. I think they're just proud that we are there. And I think really, like, after the World Championship in Trondheim, I was actually the only female cross-country skier in Norway that won a gold medal.
Across Non-para and para.
Yeah, and able-bodied, and
Cool.
even I beat like Teresa Johaug, so that was like that was actually a little fun. But yeah, so I feel I've done my part. So even though anyway how it will go in Milano Cortina, I think they are really proud of me anyway. So, but yeah, I do really want to perform, and I have set a high pressure on myself. But this season, I have been beaten more than usual because I think I'm not the only one who has been doing a lot of training this year, especially on your team. Even like you and Sydney are very strong girls, and there are some other new athletes which is suddenly up there. So I don't think I am too relaxed. Actually, I'm more stressed than ever.
Oh, no.
But I really think it will be fun.
How is Paralympic sport perceived in the nation of Norway? Like, do you feel like it has the same level of respect as the Olympics? Like, you know, everyone's probably eyes right now being on the Olympic Games, watching Klæbo win a historic amount of medals. Do you feel like the media and the fans in Norway give that level of respect to the Paralympic sports?
When we do have like world championships, which not always are broadcasted, it's hard for people to like follow us and know what we're doing, and it's really up to the media if they want to write about it or not. So maybe not when there are like smaller events, even though world championships are very big for us. But I remember the last Summer Paralympics. They really did a good job on broadcasting it on the Norwegian para athletes. They had like scheduled on the websites where it would be sent, and it was sent, and they sent a lot of like staff from the Norwegian TV to interview athletes, and it was, I think they did a great job during the Paralympics, and I do think they will do a really good job now in this Winter Paralympics as well. They're coming to do some pre-interviews with us on the pre-camp, and I think they will do a great job. But it's still a long way to go for parasport generally to be more shown on TV and stuff like that. But I think the athletes also have to do like they have to like bring something that the crowd want to see, maybe be a little bit crazy and try to call like the athlete nor the public interest. I know the one clip from or in Finstra where we had the World Cup. It was like a video of one of the Chinese athletes with no arms running up that hill, and it really got very much like media on it. So I think it's good that TikTok and Instagram try to like publish so much stuff from para sport, because then I think people think it's very interesting to watch.
And I think in our sports, I mean, we're seeing this with Klæbo right now. That video of Klæbo in the classic sprint is blowing up online, and people are like, this man can run like sub 6 minute mile or sub 3 minute kilometer going uphill with skis on his feet. Like, what? That makes me feel bad about myself. And I was in the comments of some of them and saying like, and just wait till you see someone do it without arms. Like, the para sport is such a unique and nuanced thing. And I think people who say they're sports fans will appreciate parasport if they take the time to watch it. And to your point, you know, people need that entry point, which is a way to watch it, like whether it's on TV or streamed online. Like, that is definitely a huge step that needs to be taken to get parasport out there more, is more access to watch it. Because if someone can't watch it, they can't be a fan of it. And that's a great point too, that we need the athletes to be, if it's in, you know, up to their personalities and if it's aligned with who they are, but to post online. Like, we see this right now with the Olympics. There's so many people who maybe aren't the best athlete, but they're at the Olympic Games and they're giving people behind the scenes of the food and the village and the outfits and like all these other pieces of the games, and they're helping grow the games movement through their posts. And I think we need people to do that for the Paralympics as well, for the athletes to be posting behind the scenes, to be seeing the ins and outs, to be understanding the sports and the contextual clues. And I posted one the other day, and someone said I was the first Paralympian to come up on their For You page. And I
Oh.
was like, oh, what do you want to hear? And I've gotten like actually really like 50, 60 really good questions, like nothing offensive, like genuine interest questions of like, how do you do biathlon with one hand? And like, do you stay in the same village as the Olympic athletes? And so I think there is curiosity out there, and we need people to help solve that curiosity and put themselves maybe out there on social media. And yeah, you know, the better we perform, the better it looks on TV too. Like, we want close races, we want races with people maybe being, as you said earlier, cocky or doing something a little silly when they're doing their intro on the television. And also, you know, have some of those things that aren't on the field of play that are blowing up online. Like, I'm not saying we all need a cheating girlfriend scandal from a biathlete, but
I'm sorry on the cause of every Norwegian.
yeah, or a French, you know, biathlete getting a prison sentence for stealing a teammate's credit card, or some of these other things that are blowing up. Like, maybe we won't have that level of drama, but there is, you know, I think people still view parasport when they learn about it as not as elite or serious, and then they don't assume that there's rivalries, or that there's, you know, like beef on the start line, or that there's people who are in very heated competition. Like, all of those things exist in parasport still, and people just don't get a firsthand look into that because it's either A, not covered to begin with in the media, or B, when it is covered, it's very inspiration. Oh, you're doing this with a disability. How sweet. Instead of
Absolutely.
like, who were you trying to be out there beating today? Like, I think we need a little more of that sometimes. So I know you said you have some big goals for Milano Cortina. Are you able to share with us? You don't have to, no pressure, what those goals are.
Yeah, I think it's no secret that I really love classic sprint. So that is also the first competition I will do in Milano Cortina. So I really want to do well there, but I know it's a short, but like it's very tricky course with like the favorite part for me is like the start, because it's very much double pulling, but then it's like the longest uphill ever. So I think the battle will probably be like for the medals will be in that hill. But you can do a lot of stuff on the downhill, because it's a very like deep downhill, and then you can do a lot of speed up to the last part where the finish line is. So the most tricky part is probably to stay on the feet in the downhill. So I really aim for that event. But the next day after, there will be a 10-kilometer classic, which is also one of my favorite events. So I am aiming for those two, and the rest of the games will be a bonus.
Yeah, how do you feel about the longest race of the games being on the last day of the games? The 20-kilometer freestyle is the very last event for para cross country and para biathlon. So the last day of the games that evening is the closing ceremony in Cortina, and I feel terrible for the wax technicians probably having to clean out the wax room after 6 20Ks that day across the discipline. So what are your feelings about 20K last race?
I think like I've watched the Olympics now, and they talk about that athletes are starting to get tired after a long games, and the hardest part for the last longest discipline is that it is very long, and the mental like state is almost more important than the physical, because you have to like think it's easy if you have had a very good games with a lot of if you have been on the podium every day, or you're just happy with how the games have been, and then it's one last event. It is easy if you're not that hungry. Maybe you like try to slow down, and it's not so important. But it can be a day where athletes are ready to attack.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's especially in my category for standing women. I think there is going to be more tight event than maybe the classic races. So I do feel it's going to be a long race, especially if the conditions are getting more warm. And a 20K can be very hard in those in warm condition, especially when I see the hills are very, very like steep. So I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I think it will be curious because it is this element of, especially for those who do biathlon too, like the Ukrainians, the Canadians, I mean, even myself, it's going to be exhausting. Like, I think, but it's also this attitude of the last race and it being the longest. I think people have a sense of there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like their season's over. For those who don't know, like the Paralympic World Cup season actually ends before the Paralympic Games as compared to our Olympic counterparts who have World Cups post-Olympics. So this is the end of most people's seasons unless they're adding on additional non-para races. And so there's this element of like, well, this is it, like kind of, and sometimes that's where great performances come from, is this element of nothing to lose, like last one, might as well just see what I got in there.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes propel you even on tired legs. So I think it will be an interesting race. And we haven't done too many 20Ks in the past few seasons. We've only really gotten 2, I believe, in Soldier Hollow 2023 and World Championships last year, I believe, are our only 2. And so people haven't gotten, unless they've been training specifically for it, a ton of practice at this distance. And it is unique, pacing 5 laps of 4 kilometers, taking feeds in, like how does your body respond to potentially the heat, to hydration, to all these elements that go with longer races. Like this is really the only cross-country race we have in para that is going to exceed an hour of time. And I think, yeah, it will be curious. I can see some maybe athletes who would typically do really well in maybe a 10K skate. Also, potentially they blow up during the race and they don't pace it correctly. So I think it will be kind of just like a mystery.
I can't really see now who are going to perform the best there, but I think it will be tighter than we know. But
yeah.
It's like you say, it's the last race. You can risk going on a real wall because it's the last race. You can risk more when it's the last race. So, but my main concern is that we're leaving in the 6 of the morning the day after. And I
Your
was planning
flight's
a
at
real
6 a.m.?
Yeah, in the morning, yeah.
Us too!
Oh.
Out of Venice?
Yeah.
Venice Airport?
I think so, yeah. So,
us too.
Maybe we can like party on the bus.
I think that's what's going to happen, is that the athletes will probably go back to the village after the race and the wax techs will clean up the skis and the rooms, and the athletes are going to change and go to closing ceremony in Cortina and then be driven through the night to the Venice airport. So you'll never get to sleep that night. And hopefully, I mean, Italy, that there will be like wine available or something. And everyone will be in like a, we did it, we're done mood, and everyone can celebrate together and then be exhausted for the flight.
I feel bad for the bus driver.
Yeah, so true. But yes, hopefully everyone gets to celebrate together. I mean, I think that's something that's unique too about parasport and cross-country skiing specifically, is while there is tensions and rivalries in certain nations, like other nations more than others, like at the end of the day, I think everyone can do a really good job of congratulating their opponent, like wanting to, have a beer at the end of the games. Like there is good camaraderie amongst para cross country skiing. And there's a lot of good internation friendships as well. I find really refreshing. I mean, even at our training camp right now, the Italians are here, and it's just like lovely to get to see them every morning and ski a lap with them. And so I think that's one thing that's unique in our sport is people can put aside sometimes the competition after the race is done and just enjoy each other's company. Like I see, you know, everyone's very congratulatory to each other on the finish line too. And I don't think that happens in every sport. So I think we're pretty lucky.
I think many para-athletes has grown as persons during the years and maybe have some different values in life than other humans that are able-bodied. I think we are very grateful for what we can achieve with our disabilities and our life. I think maybe haven't been able to. If I was able-bodied, I'm not sure if I would ever reach the top and join the Olympic Games. So I feel really lucky actually to be where I am and that I can experience all this stuff and have friendship with other nations. And yeah, it's I think it's a really this is a really good way of living.
We're very lucky in our sport. Well, Vilde, we from FIS and myself, I mean, I'll be racing you, but we are excited to see what you can do in Milano Cortina. And we hope your preparations go well and that you get to show up and perform your absolute best and get to, you know, feel pride once you leave the games as well and feel proud of your performances. And so our best wishes to you. We will see you very soon in Milano Cortina.
Thank you, Danny, and the same to you.
Thank you. Vilde Nilsen, the best athlete you've never heard of. Hidden Champions is a FIS original production by FIS, the International Ski and Snowboard Federation, in partnership with Maniac Studios.